Welcome back to the Common Chaos podcast. It's so nice to have you here today, Misha.
Hiya, it's nice to be here. Really good to be here.
Good. I'm so happy to welcome you. I've been really excited for your episode. You have started a therapy collective called Mynded,
I have, yeah.
and you're a wonderful therapist doing a lot of wonderful things for women. So, can you tell us the different forms of therapy that you offer and a
Yeah,
bit about your company?
yeah, sure. So, I'm Misha. I'm a therapist and I'm trained in cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, known as eye movement desensitizing and reprocessing therapy. And I'm also trained in interpersonal therapy, which people kind of know less of. Um, and I have been working in mental health since 2012. So it's some good number of years.
Yes,
And 2014 was when I first started training as a therapy.
right.
Um, and so, yeah, you were asking there about the difference between CBT and EMDR.
Yeah, the because I know that you've talked about how your aim with helping
Mm,
people is
yeah,
you're not just going to say this one's going to work for you, this one's going to
yes.
you are going to get a really thorough vision of what could benefit the individual.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess for me, when across my therapy journey, initially I trained in CBT,
Mhm.
and that's what I was just doing as therapy. But firstly, I don't believe that one therapy
Mhm.
is the best therapy for every difficulty out there and is going to suit everyone. And so I've trained in other therapies that I think do a good job at different things that need to be worked on, especially the things that I see coming up for women.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, certainly the way that I work is kind of being more flexible and using kind of the best tools and techniques and approaches
Yeah.
from each of those to help with like the different symptoms or difficulties that people are up against, really.
Yeah, you just said that you know, specifically your group is women and overcoming
Mhm.
trauma. What are some of the themes that you see coming up?
Yeah, so I think the first, when working with women in trauma, that the first and foremost is that there is this stuff in the past, really tricky, upsetting things that have occurred and are still playing a role in the here and now. So I
Yeah.
think that's the first theme that I see is that there are these challenges that, although they're in the past, they're still impacting the now.
Yeah.
And they've got these past things that have occurred, whether it's a one-off or multiple or repeated,
Yeah.
they've got their hooks into the here and now.
Yeah.
And then the sorts of themes massively across trauma is guilt,
Yeah.
shame, lots of inner critic going on.
Such sad
Um,
products, aren't they? It's so
yeah.
yeah.
And I always say the way that I kind of see how trauma impacts women is that you have the trauma incident or incidents itself,
Yeah.
in that they're really tricky, they're traumatizing, they're really upsetting, disturbing, but then you have the fallout, and that also needs to be worked on and explored because, yes, it is the trauma, but also it's what this trail has been left as a result of what's happened.
Yeah.
And so really, shame and guilt can be really, really tricky
Yeah.
to kind of unstick and budge on its own. And that's, I think, probably two of shame, guilt, over responsibility,
Hmm.
really key themes
Mhm.
that I see when working with women and working on trauma.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So just to back up a little bit, what can you tell us a bit about your journey to
Mm.
get to where you are today? What ultimately got you involved in therapy?
Yeah, I mean it's a bit of a long one considering that I've
For a
been
long
in
time.
therapy, yeah, since
Yeah.
2012.
Mhm.
So after studying psychology at uni, I was my first psychology role was a support worker in a medium secure unit for men, actually. And that was when I was first introduced to cognitive behavioral therapy. And I just loved it. I loved how practical it was. I loved how you could work with formulations and really understand the patterns that kind of keep these things stuck.
Mm.
And so that's when I went away and did my CBT training. And then as I'm working in CBT, I'm thinking, okay, there's some bits that CBT doesn't do so well at. So
Right.
let me expand my skill set. So that's kind of my therapy journey into the
Parts.
training.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then what kind of leaped me from, I guess, NHS work into my own clinic is that with NHS you see a range of people, range of difficulties. Um, but what that means for me is that I can't work flexibly and with my passion, which is working with women who have experienced trauma,
Yeah.
experiencing that shame, guilt, criticism, and not, this sense of like life isn't feeling so satisfying or so fulfilling because it's riddled with all this inner chat and all these inner turmoil going on. Um, and then my own experiences from my own therapy, my own healing practices from where I've traveled around the world, different groups, communities, workshops that I've been involved and in the UK. I was
Mhm.
like, these are things I can't do in the NHS. And actually, there is absolutely a space to work more flexibly, more holistic.
Mhm.
And so that is, yeah, why I branched into developing Minded and the vision that I want to go.
That's great. I mean, in any career, it's wonderful to have a breadth of experience.
Yeah,
And then it's through those experiences that you can start to narrow your focus and, gain expertise in one of those areas that you're passionate about. It's
yeah,
amazing. So
yeah.
good. What can you tell us about EMDR? Because I feel like I've heard more about this therapy through podcasts and stuff, even just over
Mhm.
here. I know people who have had success with
Yeah,
it. Um,
yeah.
for someone who doesn't know what it is, what would, right? Like, what would you say to expect going into a session?
Yeah. And it's a question that comes up time and time again because I
Mm.
think for a lot of people, when they're reading EMDR, they're like, what is it? How
Mhm.
does it work? And all of this. And I myself had those same questions when I first started connecting with other practitioners and therapists who were practicing EMDR. I'm thinking, this sounds wild. But EMDR is eye movement desensitizing reprocessing therapy.
Mm.
And what that essentially means, if we was to really break that down, is we're using eye movement, and that is in the therapy speak bilateral stimulation, and that is connected to a process that's internal within us that helps us move things in our brain and file things away.
Mhm.
And so with EMDR, because it's used with traumatic instances, anything that's been upsetting, disturbing, where there's still emotional charge,
Mhm.
the aim is by using this bilateral stimulation, which is eye movement traditionally, but you can do tapping as well.
Mhm.
We're starting to process. So the emotional charge from these traumatic memories starts to dissolve.
Mhm.
And then also it acts as a bridge to updating this memory with the information that we might know now, but it feels disconnected.
Mhm.
So we're really changing the emotional charge with that trauma memory by actually working through those emotions that haven't had the
Yeah.
space to breathe and be worked through yet, but also updating it because we all have the natural ability to heal, but sometimes it gets a little bit stuck.
Yeah.
Um, so, EMDR is really great at working through that emotional work.
Yeah.
Um, but it's one of these things. And I myself, when I had EMDR, that's when I was like, okay, I get it now. All those words I read, all that, I get it now.
Right.
Um, yeah,
And that's your position if someone came to you saying, "Oh, I'm really curious about this," the way that you approach therapy is you're going to say, "Okay, but let me explain to you what it is. Let me get to know you. Let me figure out what actually is the best course of action for you." And that's why it's Yeah, that's why it's so great that you have so many different facets to offer and
Mhm.
figure out what's really going to work for someone. Because if someone was a bit more hesitant about it, would that impact how it would work, or would you break things down so that it could become effective?
Yeah, so I
Big
guess it's
question.
kind of, yeah, no, I was going to say there's kind of two parts there. So with me being trained across three therapies,
Yeah.
if someone came to me and was like, I just want EMDR, I'd be like, cool, that's what we do. If someone said, I just want CBT or IPT, I'd say, that's what we do. That's, you've read about it, that's what you want.
Yeah.
But most people are like, let's do whatever's going to help me reach these goals that I've got.
Yeah.
And absolutely, that's where I'd be more flexibly.
Mhm.
I think with therapy, there's a lot of myths that come up around certain therapies that maybe need to be answered and explored that might help someone feel reassured by a certain therapy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so it is absolutely an individual process about when that person comes to me, what they want, what
Mhm.
they've heard about. Because usually nowadays, if someone is seeking me out, they've done a little bit of reading about me and they've.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There is so much information out there. You can do a lot of research first, can't you?
Yeah, but with that being said, it's one of those things, isn't it? You could read something, but how you digest that to how it actually is
Yeah.
can be two very different things.
That's true. It's very individual and that's complicated. We had well on this same vein, we had a few Instagram questions.
Yeah,
So can I ask you those from followers?
yeah, please do.
Okay, so one of them, and these are heavy questions, but it's so wonderful to have you here to address them. So one is, how do I overcome trauma repeating
Mhm.
itself in my head?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the crux of unprocessed trauma. And we know it's unprocessed because it is repeating. And so, if we've got this something that's happened that's repeating, that tells us that it's unprocessed. And
Okay.
so, yes, EMDR or CBT. My preference when processing now is EMDR. I think it does a better job of going deeper. Um, but it is, again, like what I was saying earlier, in order to stop that repeating, we need to think about what are those hooks that keep it repeating. And
Mhm.
often it is unexpressed emotion, and
Mhm.
our brain is firing up because it's saying, hello, we need to do some work here because it hasn't gone away.
Mhm.
Um, and also updating any thoughts that might be quite stuck and that's leading it to kind of repeat and feel quite distressing.
Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. Um, what about you talked about the themes? A lot comes up in guilt and
Yeah,
shame. These really massive themes
yeah.
that come up in therapy. What are some takeaways for listeners if they are sort of at the beginning stages of thinking, I could benefit from therapy. I definitely feel, those themes coming up for me. So what are some maybe takeaway techniques that someone could use to start overcoming guilt?
Yeah. So guilt is all about what we believe we shouldn't have done. It's all about our own ethical, moral standards, right?
Mhm.
But often people where we see guilt quite stuck, it might be that those things that we feel we should have done or shouldn't have done, maybe quite high standardy or unrealistic. And
Right.
so the first port of call is really thinking about, is this some like unrealistic, unrelenting expectation that's driving this for you to feel guilty? And again, guilt and shame often come together because guilt is about what we believe we shouldn't have done. And
Mhm.
then shame is all about how other people are going to perceive us, and obviously with a negative way. So compassion is really, really important here about taking responsibility not for the things that it's about taking responsibility to uh, get better and work on ourselves and bring that understanding. But compassion also means, if this was a friend speaking to you, what would you be saying about them
Yeah.
to them? What would you be offering to them as well? In therapy, sometimes we get anonymous feedback to really help move that shame along, which obviously can feel quite tricky because shame makes you want to hide away, but actually shame dissolves in being shared around those things. Um, and a lot of this is also about over responsibility that can play into that guilt as well. So in therapy, I would be encouraging listeners to kind of think about this guilt that you're holding on to. What would you be saying to other people? Are there any unrealistic, unrelenting kind of standards or pressures? And is there any chance that maybe there are other factors that come into play, or is there this over responsibility that's happening? But I find with women, because we tend to be more care-led, community-led, thinking of others, as soon as we start asking, what would I be saying to someone who I care about? Would I be saying the exact same thing to
Making
them?
that switch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That can be a really, really helpful question.
Yeah, I think that's, and do you feel like that transfers also someone coming from childhood trauma,
Hmm.
learning how to nurture the inner child,
Hmm.
yourself as a younger human. You
Hmm.
see a lot of this coming up now, and thank goodness there's so much more awareness now. But how would you speak to a child, and what was the disconnect back then for you? I mean, is that sort of a similar kind of idea?
Yeah, and I think it's and this is why therapy's for individual therapy is really helpful because it's like we get into the specifics about what's driving that guilt. So guilt, as I said, is about actions depending on the nature of trauma. It might be looking back and saying, well, as a child, what were you experiencing and thinking in that moment, as opposed to an adult looking back now.
Yeah.
And a lot of inner child work is about unmet needs. What unmet needs did you have then, and how can we kind of meet that need now? So yeah, there's so many ways that you can angle and bring in. Um, but yeah, it's all coming back to that compassion, understanding, because it all comes back to like survival.
It sounds so simple when you say it, but
Mm.
actually you have to put in such consistent work. I mean, this a book that I listened on audiobook last year, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Have you heard of this?
What was the name, sorry?
Called A New Earth by Eckhart
No.
Tolle. And he talks about how you almost have to retrain your inner monologue to be a lot kinder to yourself because
Mhm.
you can't always trust your thoughts.
Yes.
So sad to think of that, and it's such an odd concept, but you know, having those intentional thoughts, like you say, that stem from your values and compassion
Mm.
and putting in that work to reformulate how you talk to yourself and how you care for yourself. But it's a big process, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think just kind of what you were saying there around it sounds simple, but it's really tricky, and it's this retraining. A lot of people are doing the work. They're trying to think differently. They can see that they wouldn't think that of their friend or their best friend or their auntie or their mum, whoever.
Yeah.
But that's the disconnect. People often say, I know it, but I don't feel it. And that's where EMDR can do a really good job of bringing that learning into that memory. And so it's no longer just I know it, it's okay, it's updated that memory and we feel it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because yes, we can kind of say, I'm going to retrain my inner monologue. But if there's a memory that's frozen in time, that's holding lots of self-blame, guilt, shame, no matter how much, excuse me, training we do in the here and now of training our inner monologue, if there's a core memory that's holding all of that, it's going to be very hard for that to stick.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
let's talk about the hooks. That's what these frozen memories can kind of cause.
Oh. Okay, here's another question from
Yeah.
a follower. How do you work with clients to learn to trust people again and
Hmm.
determine whom to trust? And I recognize these are really big questions,
They are.
obviously, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, this one is certainly layered, because I think, understandably, a lot of people who've experienced trauma develop difficulties in or being fearful of trusting others because they've been hurt by the hands of other people. And that is one of the most damaging things as human beings that we can experience, and it's devastating. Um, and so I think it probably starts with the therapeutic relationship, having that safe space, having someone show up consistently, learning what boundaries are, how to enforce your own boundaries with the therapist, so on. But when working with people, it's a lot about actually evaluating relationships from the past, how they've been, what's worked, what hasn't, what are boundaries, what are values that you would want in a relationship in your life, whether that's romantic, platonic, whatever. And really kind of getting the person to think about what that looks like for them, or what they would like that to be. But also we have belief systems that can interfere with us learning, not learning, sorry, experiencing relationships in a certain way. So there's often some belief work that might need to go on, but also really establishing that, okay, so now with the work that we've done, what do relationships look like going forward? What's going to be healthy and helpful for you? What are the relationships that have looked like in the past? What are they like? And what do we want them to look like going forward? How will you know, when to lean in or pull out, and all of those types of discussions. But it's a process, and I think it is one that takes time and practice. Yeah.
Right. Wow. Yeah, it's interesting, and it is a process, but so wonderful when you can connect with someone who really can help you.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about it? About what you do?
Oh,
Or one of
uh,
them. There must be
yeah,
many, but what's something?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's without a doubt, it's the transformation.
Mhm.
And I think as a therapist, for me, you always remember the person who walks in. I say walk, I'm online, so
Yeah.
sits
Yeah.
and you see that the person, as I say, walks out, turns off the screen at the end.
Yeah.
And in that, there's some really hard times, you know, and there's some really, fun, exciting times. But I think for me, it's that I really always remember the person that walks in,
Mhm.
keep saying walks in, and the person that then leaves. And I
Yeah,
think, that is so beautiful. And
absolutely.
everyone has different starting points, everyone has different walks of life. So it looks different for every single woman that I work with. But that is,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so nice to hear. And so now you are cultivating a really special community.
Mhm.
You really want for this support to spread out and become something that is putting all this supportive and positive energy into these groups, you're
Mhm.
connecting into these communities. So can you tell us a bit? I know you've got like workshops coming up. You're sort of
Mhm.
going up with so many events and webinars and all these things that you can offer and we can all connect with. So what can you tell us about them and what do you hope to achieve with them?
Yeah. So one of my values that's sitting behind all of my work and is about creating this sisterhood. And this is not necessarily like people come together, but it's just holding this sisterhood value in mind of women supporting women. And if we hold that value,
Mm.
we're going to have that kind of transcended through us of care, connection, community, and this kind of collective holistic healing. And it's about with that creating healing spaces, therapeutic spaces. And so for me, although at the moment I'm predominantly one-to-one, what's happening over from now until next year is some workshops. I'm running my first retreat in Sri Lanka next year,
Mm.
in April 2026, which is going to be incredible. It's going to be space, it's a therapeutic workshop, retreat. So we're doing therapy work on what I've discussed today: past, shame, guilt, women healing women, coming together, downtime, movement, yoga, all the
Shift.
good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, moving into the future. That's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing coming for April next year. But I'm also running a free webinar, two free webinars. Let me where are my dates?
We'll put
On
this all on our socials and everything too, but yes, share here. And then
Yeah, so I'll give you obviously the details for the footnotes. But Tuesday, the 2nd of December, 7 till 7:45, I will be running an online free webinar to talk about the patterns, how therapy can help, a bit more about what therapy is, and some question and answers. And the same again on Wednesday, the 7th of January, 2026. So they're free webinars, great opportunity if people want to come, ask questions, find out a bit more. Plan to run them kind of throughout the year.
amazing. Yeah.
Um, and then I have a little monthly newsletter that goes out that just talks about book recommendations, my blogs, reflection pieces from myself, as well as talk about anything current that's happening. And so that goes out once a month.
Get me signed up.
Oh, did you? Ah, thank you. Which is really, I'm getting really lovely feedback, but it's like a warm pause, gentle break. So yeah, that's what's coming up for me currently. Some webinars, the retreat, and the monthly newsletter that goes out.
Amazing. We will link all of those things so all the listeners can figure out exactly where to find you.
Mhm.
I just want to say Minded is with a Y. So when we're looking you up,
Yeah,
Minded with a Y.
yes. And my Insta handle, this is now going to be a bit confused, has now changed. So my Insta handle is therapy with Misha underscore.
Okay.
But yeah, website is minded with a Y.
Okay. Yeah, we shall link everything. Um, just so people can get to know you a little bit better before
Yeah.
we go, what are some of your wellness activities that you've made routine for yourself?
Yeah, great question. So I tend to have, I kind of almost see it like a menu. So I think depending where I'm at in the year or what's going on in my life, I will lean into certain things. So it's really, about being attuned. But I'd say currently, I'm quite a cold person. So currently it's all about an
Really?
electric blanket. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're a very warm person, really.
So at the moment, it's all about an electric blanket.
Okay.
I'm in my book season and I'm got a slight addiction to chai lattes at the moment. So that is my calming. Yeah, that's me at the moment.
Okay.
And also really trying to work actually on mobility. And that I'm finding being really physically supportive and calming for me. Because it's really just helping with like feeling good in the body,
Yeah,
feeling free to move. So that's currently
that's
where
me currently.
what's been helping me feel calm, collected, and looking after myself.
Amazing. Um, well, my last question is always kind of what you just answered because I always say, what is something I always want there to be a takeaway. What is
Yeah,
something that helps you feel calm when things are chaotic?
a list. Always start with a list. Do you know what? There's some of the most simple things, but creating space. And
Mm,
I think it's so easy, isn't it, to just be on the run, on the go. And for me, when things are feeling hectic,
mm,
it's about pausing and clearing the diary for like a day, a weekend, and that's and then make a list. But yeah, for me, that's a really biggie. I love the hot bath as well,
mm,
but what I feel has the actual biggest reset for me of giving me breathing space is going, I need to pause and I need to
mm,
clear the diary to give me that time to just slow down, take a walk, not be. This is something on my career break that I really learned and noticed.
mm,
You're always on the countdown of a time. I've got to be here for here. I've got to do that for then.
mm.
And just having that space, I think, can be really deep decompressing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. At the beginning of this year, I chose a word for the year, and I've never done that
Yeah.
before.
I love this is I love that. I do this every year.
You do? What was
Yeah.
your word?
So my words were committed,
Okay.
focused, and aligned. That's what I said at the beginning of this year.
Okay. And do you feel like you've consistently come back to them and it's kind of it's had an effect, hasn't it? It has for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find I really like goals, but for me, I like to set intentions, and sometimes it's a bit too abstract for some
Those are
people.
different, aren't they? Of course.
Yeah.
Intention. Yeah,
And yeah, I would say it's something that I've had to remind myself of times, but
yeah.
certainly the committed and focus, it was about prioritizing business development, really kind of thinking about what I want for my future, which did mean saying no to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think my friends will say, yeah, we've got a lot of no's from Misha this year. But actually,
She was focused and she was committed and
yeah.
yeah, amazing. You had your goals and intentions and that's what vision boards are for and all these, really handy tricks. My word for the
What's
year
the word?
was presence
Yeah.
because I really wanted to, like you're saying, I wanted to be in the present moment and make that a really serious intention because some of the things that I love the most, running with my dogs.
Yeah.
Like the simplest thing, I get exercise, they're getting exercise, they're happy. I've got, fresh air and nature.
Mm.
But when that is combined with I got to make this run quick and I got to get home and I got to get to my
Yeah.
list,
Yeah.
suddenly it's not having a desirable effect.
Of course.
Right. So
Yeah.
breaking it down like that, and suddenly I was aware of my breath. I was aware of
Mhm.
my surroundings. Something I learned in therapy, just like this tiny trick, was connecting to all of your senses to ground
Yeah.
yourself,
Yeah.
and so it's like having those little tips at the forefront of your mind to rewire your routine.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying I have like done brilliantly, but I know that
Mm.
I have put in positive work for that. And I do
Yeah.
think I've come, a lot further from where I was in the beginning. And so that's.
And that's what it's all about. When we set these intentions, it's not saying that every living, breathing minute of our lives it
Right.
has to be
That's stressful
implemented.
again too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just like I'm setting this intention because I want to bring it more into my life. And whether that's two times, twice more, eight times more, it's just an increase, you know?
Those things compound, don't they? Anything above zero compounds.
Yes. Have you read Atomic Habits before?
Where did it? No, I got that from a podcast. It was a
Ah,
can't remember who it was now. I would say it. But I just this person said anything above zero compounds. So
yeah.
that little bit of exercise every day that will compound. And I just thought see these little snippets that stick with you or
Yeah.
can be powerful.
Yeah. Atomic Habits, a book, talks about all the compounding effects. So yeah,
What
do
something I'm
that.
going to do, I'm going to consolidate all the books that I've read in the last little while because I've gotten a lot
Mm.
more into reading again. And so maybe I'll consolidate some of yours as well, and we can pop those out with your episode because yeah, so good to have a good book on the go.
Oh, 100%. And that's what my newsletter is. I do every month. Is say this is a book that I've read and this is my take home. And if it lands with you, go read, you know?
Amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
Misha, I want to give you such a massive thank you for being.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here and for all. I mean, you've given us so much to think about and such such rich ideas and hope. So thank you. And yeah, we'll put up all the links for everyone to come and find.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Yeah.